This one boundary makes an avoidant fall in love. There's one boundary that, when set correctly, completely disarms an avoidant. It doesn't chase them. It doesn't demand anything. It doesn't punish them or try to make them talk. Yet it's the one thing that makes them stop running and start feeling something real. Maybe for the first time in their life. This boundary is the quiet power of emotional non-dependence. It's when you stop needing their validation, approval, or affection to feel secure and start giving that security to yourself. When an avoidant realizes you're not emotionally dependent on them, something inside them shifts. You stop feeling like a threat to their freedom, and instead you become the one person who feels safe to be around. Because for an avoidant, safety isn't about closeness. It's about space. And the moment you stop trying to close the gap, they're suddenly drawn to fill it themselves. Let's break this down. Avoidants are driven by a deep fear of engulfment, the terror of losing themselves in someone else's emotions. When love starts to feel too intense, too vulnerable, or too demanding, their nervous system interprets it as danger. That's why they pull away, not because they don't care, but because they associate closeness with loss of control. So every time you chase, explain, or plead for more connection, their walls go higher. But when you stop, when you hold your emotional ground with calm self-respect, they feel something they've never experienced before. Love without pressure. That's the boundary that captures their heart. Your ability to stay open but not needy. It says, I love you, but I don't need you to regulate me. And that message breaks their pattern more powerfully than any words ever could. Avoidants fall for emotional independence because it reflects everything they've been unconsciously seeking, but were too afraid to ask for. You become a mirror of stability, someone who doesn't crumble when they distance, someone who can stay grounded even in silence. That stability feels foreign yet magnetic, because beneath their avoidant behavior is a scared child who learned that love means losing safety. But when you stay loving without chasing, calm without clinging, they begin to rewire that belief. They start realizing love can coexist with freedom, and that's when something remarkable happens. They start approaching you. Slowly at first, almost testing the water, checking if your calm is real. But the more you stay emotionally self-contained, the more their defenses soften. See, what you're really showing them through this boundary is emotional maturity. You're not reacting from wounds. You're responding from self-respect. That difference is subtle but profound. When you stop over-explaining, stop trying to convince them of your worth, stop decoding their silence, you're teaching them something their nervous system never learned. That love doesn't have to be chaotic. They begin to feel safe enough to lean in. And in their world, safety equals attraction. You're no longer another emotional demand. You're an emotional sanctuary, someone who respects both connection and individuality. Let's be honest. The avoidant isn't drawn to drama. They're drawn to peace. They may not realize it at first, but peace becomes addictive when they meet someone who refuses to engage in the emotional push-pull. Every time they withdraw and you respond with calm understanding instead of panic, it confuses their system in the best way possible. They expect abandonment, confrontation, or control, but instead they find grace. That grace feels like emotional oxygen, and slowly they start associating you with safety, not suffocation. That's how emotional non-dependence becomes a silent magnet. It doesn't beg for love, it inspires it. This boundary isn't about pretending you don't care or playing games. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the deepest form of care, because it comes from self-awareness, not fear. You're saying, I choose love, but not at the cost of my peace. That's what makes an avoidant curious. They've spent their whole life around people who tried to pull them closer. But you're the first one who stands still and lets them come to you. It's unfamiliar, and that unfamiliarity is what breaks their emotional pattern. They start feeling something that scares and intrigues them. Respect. Respect turns into emotional safety, and emotional safety turns into love. When you set this boundary, you'll notice subtle changes. The avoidant who used to take hours or days to reply suddenly checks in more often. The one who avoided eye contact now holds your gaze longer. They begin to mirror your calm energy because your emotional tone becomes the new standard of interaction. You stop reacting to their distance, and they stop needing to create it. The power balance shifts, not through manipulation, but through emotional clarity. You're no longer the one chasing connection. You're the one embodying it. That's what draws them in. Not your words, not your efforts, but your energy. Understand this. Emotional non-dependence doesn't mean detachment. It means self-possession. You can love deeply while still being grounded. You can care without collapsing. That balance is magnetic to an avoidant because it's what they've always lacked. Deep down, they crave intimacy, but only with someone who won't lose themselves in it. When they sense that your world doesn't fall apart in their absence, they start to trust that your love won't consume them. And trust is the one thing that makes an avoidant stay. Not passion, not sex, not charm. Trust. But here's the truth. This boundary will test you because your instincts will scream to reach out when they pull away. You'll want to explain, fix, or seek reassurance. Don't. Every time you resist that impulse, you're teaching both yourself and them a new way of relating, one that's rooted in emotional responsibility. You're saying, I can hold my own emotions without making them your job. That is the purest act of strength. And when an avoidant feels that strength, they start seeing you differently. You're no longer part of their old trauma script. You've become something entirely new, safe love that doesn't trap them. This is the paradox of avoidant attraction. The more you release them, the closer they feel. When you no longer seek their presence to validate your worth, your energy becomes lighter, freer, more confident. And that's exactly what they fall for. They start realizing you're not dependent on them to feel loved. And that independence makes your love 10 times more valuable. Because you're not loving from need, you're loving from choice. That distinction makes all the difference. They fall in love not because they need you, but because they choose you. Just like you chose yourself first. So if you love someone with avoidant tendencies, remember, your most powerful boundary isn't about blocking, chasing, or arguing. It's about emotional independence, the quiet strength of loving without losing yourself. It's saying, I'll meet you halfway, but I won't abandon myself to reach you. That's the kind of boundary that not only earns an avoidant's respect, but opens their heart. Because for them, love that allows freedom feels like love worth trusting. And in the end, trust is what makes an avoidant fall in love. Not your intensity, not your efforts, but your calm refusal to compromise your peace for connection. And remember, love isn't about holding tighter, it's about standing stronger. When you master that balance, even the most avoidant heart begins to feel safe with you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today.